Has it been a mid-year for games, or have we had great games come out in the mid-year? It will soon be July, so it's time for a breakdown of the best games released in the first half of 2026. Now, this year is special because you can kind of compare it to the Olympic basketball tournament. We all know how it ends. Team USA wins by a huge margin, and the Yugoslavian team comes in second. If you haven't caught on by now, it means that whatever happens, GTA 6 wins it all this year, and whoever comes in second has reason to celebrate as if they won the gold, because we all know Rockstar's behemoth of a game is out of everyone's league. What's really weird to me is how many titles come out in September. Obviously, nobody is crazy enough to actually release their game in November. October is cutting it very close, but September? Yes. Cram every release into September and hope something sticks to the audience long enough to compete with GTA. That being said, the first half of 2026 has been less than stacked. I am primarily an RPG player, and this channel primarily focuses on RPGs, but with our choices lacking and me enjoying a good deviation from the usual more often than not, these are 3 games that I've narrowed down out of all the blockbusters released this year so far to be my contenders for Game of the Mid-Year. Starting with number 3, Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, an absolute banger of a game. And it's not just a great Lego game, it's a great Batman game too. Honestly, what I didn't expect was just how good a Lego game could look. It's one of those games that's impossible not to take seriously once you see it in motion. The graphics are incredible. The game isn't really any more demanding than most modern AAA titles, but people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the idea that a Lego game could have high system requirements. Then you actually play it and see the lighting, water effects, physics, textures, and overall presentation, and it all starts to make sense. For reference, I'm playing on a 7900 XTX at 4K with epic settings and FSR quality preset. Most of the time I'm getting a stable 60 FPS, though there are occasional drops. FrameGen helps a lot if you're willing to sacrifice a bit of image quality. With that enabled, I'm hovering around 100 FPS. So yeah, Lego Batman has unexpectedly landed in my top 3 new releases of the year and is officially a Game of the Year contender for me. Who would have thought? Definitely give it a shot if you have the chance. Coming in at number 2, Pragmata. Pragmata is absolute cinema. One thing I appreciate more and more these days is a game that knows exactly how long it needs to be. Pragmata is a relatively short game, or for some people maybe even too short, but honestly I think it's exactly the right length. It's a self-contained story you can finish in about 10 to 15 hours. Steam says I spent around 14 hours with it, and that feels about right. That's basically one season of a modern TV show. No endless filler, no bloated open world full of checklists, no content stretched out just to hit an arbitrary number of hours. It starts, tells its story, introduces its mechanics, and before it wears out its welcome, it's over. And as far as I'm concerned, that's perfect. I won't spoil too much of the story, I'll just say that it's nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary. It's a little cliche at times, but I don't really mind, because the narrative does its job well enough to support what I think is excellent gameplay. More on that in 1 minute. You are an astronaut sent on a mission to a lunar research facility. Something goes catastrophically wrong, your team gets wiped out, and you're rescued by a young girl who isn't actually a girl at all. She's Diana, an advanced AI cyborg who has no memory of where she came from or what her purpose is. It is up to us to find out. The story clearly wants us to be emotional, and to some extent it succeeds, but the bonding moments between Diana and Hugh, the character we control, feel a little forced at times. Still, all of that exists mainly to get us to the gameplay, which is what really matters. The robots on the moon base have gone completely haywire. The facility's defense system, known as IDIS, is trying to kill you every step of the way. Most enemies are resistant to conventional weapons, but Diana can hack them, exposing weak points that you can shoot or further exploit through additional hacks for even more damage. Your character has a weapon loadout, upgrade modules, and several different playstyles available. Personally, I think the overheat build is the strongest because you can stun enemies and follow up with devastating melee attacks. That hacking minigame is really the core mechanic of the entire game. The basic idea is simple. You aim at an enemy that's protected and effectively immune to damage, a hacking grid appears, and while keeping track of everything happening around you, you guide your path from the starting point to the green EXE node. Once you reach it, you've successfully hacked the enemy enemy and made it vulnerable. The minigame is basically a little maze. You can boost your damage by routing through the blue nodes. Enemies have firewalls where red blocks damage you if you pass through them, purple ones slow you down, and then there are yellow hacking modules that produce various effects. Some apply debuffs, some accelerate overheating, some enable multi-hacks so that hacking one enemy also hacks another, and so on. What I really like is that the game isn't particularly difficult, but all these systems work together in a way that forces you to use practically every button on your controller, and I love that. Too many games leave most of the controller unused. You've got all these buttons, and developers should be thinking about how to challenge players by making full use of every tool available to them. So, in Pragmata, L2 is aiming, R2 is shooting, R1 is dodge, L1 becomes crowd control later in the game, hacking uses square, circle, cross, triangle, sprint is R3, L3 and R3 at the same time activates overload, basically an ultimate ability. Genuinely great game design. The game kept me engaged the entire way through without ever becoming frustrating like a Souls title. Challenging but fair. As for the technical side of things, the game is optimized extremely well. The graphics are good, exactly what I'd expect from a sci-fi adventure set on the moon. The soundtrack didn't really leave a lasting impression on me. I feel like something's missing there, but you know. But the sound effects and controller feedback are excellent. The price is pretty steep, but it's a brand new AAA release. What did you expect? Skip a couple questionable life choices for a weekend or two and you'll probably have enough money for it. Overall, fantastic game. I'm already looking forward to whatever sci-fi adventure ends up stealing my attention next, which brings us to number 3, Sorrows. Now, PlayStation exclusives always feel a little special to me. I know they're going to be well optimized. I know the haptic feedback will be excellent. Seriously, the DualSense controller adds an entirely new dimension to this game. I know the experience will be cinematic, and I know I'm probably going to have a great time. And when it comes to Sorrows, all of that is true. This action roguelite comes from the developers who gave us Returnal, and while Sorrows is a very good game, I don't think it actually surpasses its predecessor. Now here's the thing, the game is incredibly fun. I genuinely had a hard time putting it down. In fact, if I had to give it an award, I'd say it would be my personal game of the mid-year. Not because it's the most groundbreaking or ambitious title I've played, but simply because it's the game I've consistently had the most fun with. I still don't think it's better than Returnal though. I honestly don't know how they managed to make a game that somehow feels smaller than the sum of its parts. But the gameplay is fluid, satisfying, and highly addictive. And for me, that's enough to keep coming back. The story never really grabbed me, the characters are just okay, and I'm convinced parts of the art direction look suspiciously AI generated. Still, I'd recommend it to just about anyone. If you own a PlayStation, you're guaranteed at least a weekend of quality entertainment. PC players, on the other hand, should probably play Returnal first. The best way I can describe Sorrows is that it's more fun than it is memorable. It's a game that constantly tempts you into one more run, and somehow keeps delivering, even when some of its individual pieces aren't particularly remarkable. A technically polished, highly enjoyable action roguelite that may not reach the heights of Returnal, but absolutely succeeds at the one thing that matters most, being ridiculously fun to play. For fans of the genre, that's more than enough. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my top 3 most fun games of 2026 mid-year. I'm looking very much forward to the second half of 2026, which games are going to be able to compete with GTA 6 for what I think should be the title of runner-up in 2026 Game of the Year Awards. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you, and bye.